having what I like to call an errands day, although technically it is chores because it's in the house. Now, as the title of this video suggested, I am contemplating dyeing all, maybe not all, but the majority of my clothes black. And that is because partially some of my clothes are already black, probably about 80% of my wardrobe. But for anybody who has been here for longer than 2 minutes, you'll know that I have quite a few things that are green, and I have these hoodies that are really now only being worn in the house for what I would call loungewear, and that is because they are so worn out. I've had them about 4 years. They are 100% cotton, but they have become so pilled. I don't know if you can all see. It's not always visible on camera. Also, it looks a lot better colour on camera than it actually is. It's really actually quite faded and dull. There's all the pilling. There's even a little rip in the sleeve. I don't personally mind it sort of looking distressed, but what I really don't like is when the material itself starts to look really grubby. So what I'm saying in this video is I definitely don't think a minimalist wardrobe has to be the cliche all black wardrobe. It's fine if that's what you like, but it doesn't have to be. However, I have discovered that clothing that is light coloured, especially when you have a dog that you are constantly picking up and holding near you, it really makes your clothes dirty faster. And I used to always like sort of getting 2 wears at least out of my jumpers and sweaters because they're not right next to your skin before you wear them. That doesn't happen anymore. I can only have 1 wear. They just look grubby sooner. So I have decided to dye all my light clothing black, as in all the clothing that I wear in the UK, not including my summery dresses that I wear when I'm away in warmer climates. But earlier this morning I did a test of 2 of the pieces that I'm not quite as bothered about, sort of this lighter t-shirt and this lighter jumper. As you can see by this footage, they actually turned out quite good. I was really worried about losing the rock print because I really liked it, and all I lost was the description underneath the rocks, which basically said what they were, but I can still see a little bit of the design, so that's nice. But I was fully accepting of the fact that I might actually lose all the pattern and all the print. It obviously depends whether it's cotton, whether it's being dyed on the cotton, and whether it's like a vinyl. These particular prints don't actually feel like vinyl, but clearly they're made of something else that's not cotton, so it's not dyed on the actual print area, which is quite nice because it means that now I've dyed them, I can still see the print. So what I'm now actually going to try is I'm going to try dyeing this one that I've got on. Now this one and the beige one, which I will show you all. This beige one, I am a little bit more reluctant to dye because this Mount Fuji Japanese one is one of my favourite t-shirts, but it really is just starting to look so grubby. And one of these dye-on pots can roughly do about 3 pieces, not including jeans. So I know that if I want to dye it to save money, I should put it in with the jumper. I mean, it's not expensive. They're about £6, so that's about $7. But it makes sense to put it in because then it's sort of only averaging sort of £2 or £3 a piece if you put 2 or 3 pieces into the washing machine. So obviously that's what I did earlier. I tested out my 2 that I'm not as bothered about, and they've turned out quite well. One thing that I don't particularly like is I don't like it when the stitching still shows up because the stitching was polyester, even though the t-shirt is cotton, but it doesn't look bad. But I really don't want to lose my Japanese print. I'm taking a big risk. I don't want to lose it, but I suppose it's not the end of the day, and it just makes my t-shirt look a bit less grubby. So it's a toughie. I can't decide whether to put it in or not. But one thing that I've definitely learned is that for some reason, when you get pilling on black, I don't think it looks as bad. It looks just more like it's supposed to be faded and distressed. But when it happens on any other colour, I personally feel like it just looks really, really grubby and old. Some of you might have noticed that I actually dyed my pale blue fleece sort of a darker navy colour a few days ago, and that's what I've been wearing in some of the previous videos. And I'm quite happy with that because at least it's a darker colour now, so it doesn't look as dirty. I personally find that darker colours are just more, well, easier maintenance. So again, not all minimalists have to have an all black wardrobe, but for me at the moment, it's proving the easiest thing. They can all go in together and not run into each other, the colours, although obviously we can do separate washes, darks, lights, but the darks, I feel like it's easier just to put all the darks in together, because even when you have like a mixture of colours in a wash, I feel like some are still darker than others and they end up coming off on each other with the pilling and stuff. So, you know. Also, while I'm on the subject of repurposing and recycling things, because obviously we've dyeing these, I'm probably going to get maybe another year's wear out of them. And even then, we will probably turn them into rags or donate them. But I mentioned, I think in the last video, or the Japanese minimalist makeover video, that I had an old blanket that I was also thinking of how to recycle or repurpose. I had quite a bit of fun the other day deciding to cut all the wiring out of it and reusing it as a blanket for Zala. So I will leave you with some clips of that as well at the end, showing you how I managed to do that. But let's now take the risk of trying to dye these, and I will obviously show you the results of all of my clothes at the end as well. So I obviously need to go put a different t-shirt on whilst I put this in the wash. I'll be right back. So I actually think that the stitching is probably going to stay. When I rub my hand over this, it doesn't feel like vinyl, but it clearly is. And I noticed that on my test t-shirt, it seemed to be that some of the print stayed, but some of it disappeared. Like where there was writing, it disappeared, but where there was a picture, it stayed. So if I had to hazard a guess, it might be that we managed to keep the circle and the Japanese writing, but the writing above disappears. And on the other t-shirt, I managed to keep this, as you might have seen already. So let's put these in. Also, I am going to attempt to dye my partner's Van Gogh t-shirt for him, as it's got a few stains on it. And even though it was a white, and we always put the whites in alone, they always seem to, like, if they've got a bit of print on them, run off and run into each other. This has actually only had a few wears. It's not even that old, but it's ended up like this grubby colour. So that's what we've been doing with whites as well. We do initially try to sort of bleach them or put stain remover in, but when it doesn't work, we resort to the dye. So let's put it all in. These are quite good now because basically they don't have to come with salt anymore. You don't have to put them in a pan and make a mess of your kitchen. They can just go straight into the washing machine, and then usually just one rinse cycle afterwards to make sure the dye doesn't run. But with no soap, because I once made that mistake and it washes some of the dye out of it. So you have to wait until the next time. Right. It's all in there. I'm going to put it all in. Right guys, it is all in there. I will see you in a few hours when it is done for the results. Fingers crossed that my Mount Fuji print is still on the back. See you soon. Guys, the big reveal. I am almost too scared to look. Are we ready? Oh dear, drum roll, drum roll. scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. I see a little bit of print, I see a little bit of print. Let's have a look. Guys, I am so happy it has kept all the print. That is so nice. And now I don't have to worry about it looking stained and grubby. And also, for some reason, it doesn't actually, the stitching doesn't stand out as much as on the other t-shirt. It actually looks more white on the camera than it is in reality. It's like a grey colour. I'm not sure why it always looks brighter on camera than it actually is. Maybe because I've not white balanced it yet, I don't know. Anyway, let's have a look at this one. So sadly for my partner, it has dyed all the actual Van Gogh paintings, maybe because they were actually just like painted onto the cotton and not vinyl, but it was stained and past it anyway, so this will probably just be a work t-shirt for him now. Although I'm a little bit sad because I sometimes borrowed this t-shirt because I did like it, but now it looks like it's just going to be a spare t-shirt. I mean, we could get some little iron-on patches to go on there, but I feel like it's not worth it. It's just like a work t-shirt now. So this has actually turned out really nice. So a happy accident that sometimes happens when you dye things are that if they are a slightly darker colour, i.e. this was the dark green anyway, it's obviously harder to dye completely over them, so they actually mix a little bit with the colour you're dyeing. So this has ended up like black with a slight hue of dark green, almost like a really deep green, and luckily it has kept the pictures, whereas I did think that this one might be like on my partner's t-shirt and it might dye the pictures out but just keep the writing, because obviously the writing is like a bit of vinyl, but that really didn't feel like vinyl, but it obviously is like an iron-on print. I'm quite pleased that that has happened like that. And this had like a stain on the sleeve that I'm sure some of you might have seen, and I think it's even got the stains out of the sleeve, so that is really good. And now it just looks sort of like it's supposed to be distressed, but at least the colour is refreshed. Also guys, I made an oopsie and I didn't realise that I actually had a tea towel in the wash that was light green and now it's dark green. So we've accidentally dyed a tea towel, but if anything that's cool because stains won't show up as easily on it. Because I don't know about you guys, but for some reason all our tea towels get stains on them, even though we're clearly not supposed to wipe anything up with them. I don't know what goes on, but that's what happens. Anyway, I'm quite pleased with how they've turned out. I will also hang them to dry, and if I have time in this video, I will show you the dried result, but I should imagine it won't be much different to this, maybe one shade lighter. Right, Mummy's going to pull all this out. Okay, let Mummy do it. You're not going to let me, are you? Can I do it, please? I need to get this out. Come on, I need to get this out for a second. And then you can have it. How is it going to let me? Is it gonna let me? Is it gonna let me pull it all out? Excuse me, I need to get this. Maybe if we pull a bit of that out. That's not for you, that's electrical wiring. You can't have that. We can't have that bit. We can't have that bit. Yeah. Any more of this wiring out, do you reckon? Let's have a look. You want this little pad for yourself, do you? You want this pad? Come on then. You can have this as your little puppy pad. There you go. You can have that as your puppy pad. Mummy's going to recycle all these things. Okay? You like that? Is that your new little pad, is it? Okay then.